And hello, our party ghouls and goblins and all our fans in internet land and beyond. I'm your host, David Estacado. I'm here with my buddy from Another Nutty, the one and only Rob the Movie Guy, and we have a hell of a review for you guys.
What's going on, everybody? Yes, we absolutely do. And this is something that I know you've been wanting to get into. And if you had not brought it to my attention for us to review, it would have just been on the back burner. I would have never had the thought of reviewing here. So this is going to be the review for a Tales from the Crypt movie, the first Tales from the Crypt movie called Demon Knight. And before we get into our thoughts, let's go and roll the trailer here real quick.
Roll it.
Universal Pictures is proud to present the motion picture directing debut of one of America's most talented and respected artists.
Cut! Cut, 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 cut! Oh, hello, kiddies. So glad you could join me. Your pal, the Crypt Keeper, has gone Hollywood in a big way. I'm directing my first feature film. Care for a little shriek preview? For my big scream premiere, I wanted lots of suspense. Uh-oh. Special effects, sex, violence. The kind of thing you could really sink your teeth into. Frights! Camera! Action! It's about a chase through the ages. A race against time. The war between good and evil.
Come on out, everybody! It's time to play!
And the final battle between man...
I'm sorry.
...and demon.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I lied.
It stars Billy Zane from Dead Calm, William Sadler from Die Hard 2, and Jada Pinkett from Menace to Society. Ooh, I love those titles. And you'll love Demon Knight.
They're here! The demons are here!
And ladies, if you think Demon Knight is too gross and yucky...
Whoa!
Thank you.
There you have it. The trailer for Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, one of my favorite movies. This is one of those movies that it's just a fun watch, man. Growing up with the series and the cartoon, it's one of those things that really kind of hits those nostalgia buttons. Rob, I know you grew up with the series as well. You want to go a little bit into detail about that? Like, were you excited when this movie came out? I know we were like, what, in grade school when this movie came out? It was like,
yeah,
what,
I was still in elementary school when the movie was coming out. And yeah, I was a fan of the show. I came across it through HBO. Whenever I had the channel, I was able to watch it then. So when they made the announcement for the movie, I was very excited for it. And I also was a fan of the cartoon series as well, too, which I was kind of skeptical even as a kid about it, because I was like, the show is so good, the cartoons is going to water it down. And to my surprise, I ended up enjoying a lot more than I gave it credit for at that initial thought there. But yeah, I was a fan of the show, and I still have the entire series DVD set here at home as well, too. I don't watch it much. When I do come across it, I still get the same nostalgia factor, just like you mentioned yourself. But you were also a big fan of it as well. And as a matter of fact, you seem to be a little more aware of the background of the Tales from the Crypt series here, as far as like the comic books and stuff, which I didn't know at the time that it was based on like a magazine or a comic book. I'm not really sure. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, because in the comic book, it's not just the Crypt Keeper. You have the witch. You have like other side characters. Like you actually see in the cartoon series more than anything, because they all took turns telling the stories and trying to like be the head host. But yeah, most of the stories that you see on the show are actually based on actual comic lines and comic stories from the comics that they redid for the show. This movie was actually the first one that's not based on any comic storylines. It's its own story that it was based on and written off. Funny enough, I know, because we talk about this movie a lot, man. We talk about, because before recording everything, kind of other stuff that's going to be happening. To be like the first Tales from the Crypt movie. Technically, the first Tales from the Crypt movie was actually going to be From Dusk Till Dawn, until it had its own thing. And then this, technically, the movie that we're watching now was supposed to be the second part three series of movies, but since this was like the closest thing to what they were expecting for a Tales from the Crypt movie, they went with the script. And man, it went through a lot of rewrites, and you can kind of tell through that when you watch the movie a little bit.
Yeah, and I was aware too that with the little research I did for the film, that there were several directors that were attached. Tom Hooper being one, and I know Mary Lambert, who was most famous for doing Pet Sematary. But after the failure of Pet Sematary 2, they couldn't get investors to fund for the movie, so it was pretty much in limbo for quite some time before eventually it got to the producers desk, I believe, of Joel Silver, who was also one of the producers of the TV show, to kind of go in along with this project as well. So it went through a lot of trial and error before it finally came to fruition. And I, as a kid, I initially thought that was just an easy thing for them to get off the ground, because the show was starting to become very, very successful. I mean, it lasted 7 seasons, so I figured, what difficulty did it have in trying to get a film done? But as you learn these things throughout the years, you realize that it's pretty difficult. So, having seen the film now, when I saw it as a kid, I enjoyed it for what it was. I did get a kick out of it. I'm sure from what you just spent from the beginning of this review that you have a blast with it. I did too. But I think you have much more of a closeness to it than I did. Oddly enough, maybe you can go against that.
It's the same thing that you did. Like we talked about it before. Like this is one of those shows. Like you had to sneak to watch it. I had to wait until like HBO gave you their little sneak peek of their channels. I had to stay up late to watch it. And then once I found out it was going to be a movie, I was really hyped about it. Considering that it was going to be like a long hour episode, I thought it was going to be like a whole anthology thing, but it's actually one whole story instead of like, a creep show type of movie, or, even recently Trick or Treat, where it's like one whole continuous story with one main feature throughout the film. But overall, I enjoyed the film. And I mean, let's get into it, man. Let's actually get into the review here.
So why don't you tell what the plot is about? Because this was something that I agree. I thought it was going to be a little. When I first heard about the movie, I did not really know what the film was about, other than it was just going to be demons and people dying at the hands of the demons. But why don't you get into the plot here?
All right. So pretty much it comes out to these two main characters, Breaker and this collector character played by the wonderful Billy Zane, who is trying to track on Breaker because he has this relic, this ancient artifact, so to speak, key, that is pretty much the key to the end of the world. Because if he gets this key, he already has the other keys to able to unleash the darkness and demons into the world. And there's some other aspects regarding that key, that it's just a special power that it comes from the blood of Christ, but it goes into more detail once the movie goes on. You kind of reveal a big ending at the end of the movie. But that's pretty much the basic plot. And they end up pretty much at a hotel slash, I want to say, a church.
Because it was a church, but then they turned it into like a hotel.
Right. The whole movie pretty much takes place in this hotel with this main character played by Billy Zane, the collector, trying to get this artifact back and trying to finagle his way in to get it back, and the whole chaos that ensues. But it's a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a lot of fun.
Little plot, but still pretty fun.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things about the movie that when I saw this movie again, because I hadn't seen it in quite some time, I think well over 10 years if I'm not mistaken, but with the exception of Jada Pinkett Smith, who I remember was in the movie, but I forgot all the other actors that were in the film as well. But then at the time, I didn't really know who they were. But you have Thomas Hayden Church, you have C.J.H. Pounder, Will Sadler is in the movie as the character of Breaker, who is supposed to be the protector of this key. And I thought they were all fantastic. And plus, the one thing about
that guy was like in everything, man.
Yeah, but the one fun thing about the movie was that Will Sadler was in the very first episode of the first season of Tales from the Crypt. So the fact that they brought a Tales from the Crypt alum to be part of this movie, I thought that was very fitting for the film. So being like the icebreaker, if you will, to have people who are fans of the show be like, oh, that's Will Sadler from the, So anyway, so I thought that was pretty cool because I had forgotten about that when I was watching this movie. But you also wanted to talk about something that you brought up in the beginning, which was Billy Zane, who I think steals the show. Quite frankly, he's not in the movie a whole lot, but when he is in the movie, like God, you just can't forget that guy's face. So why don't you share about that on your end?
Oh well, like that's the one thing I like. Like Billy Zane at the time was known to playing these other kind of stoic characters at the time, and William Sadler was kind of more as like the it was weird. It's like the roles were reversed. Billy Zane plays the collector, and he's like the antagonist. But he's such a charming character.
Yeah.
Like, plays it in
Funny
such a
too.
way, hilarious. Yeah. While William Sadler is playing the protagonist, he's like a darker, brooding, almost like a Punisher type of feel to him. So between the two is fun throughout the movie, but most of the scene stealing comes from Billy Zane as he kind of portrays this kind of alluring, charming character as he's trying to kind of seduce people and get them to kind of let him in, and he does it in such a way that it's just funny and zany and crazy, and it's most of the scenes that come from him kind of like, I want to say, trying to entice these people, and how the way he.
What you mean, like tempt them, right? He's trying to tempt them.
He tries to tempt them to kind of like let him in, or kind of.
So let's elaborate on that, because there's obviously there's a lot of history with that key, where you mentioned about the blood of Christ, which is in the key, but there's a whole thing about the blood actually being in that key and the reasons why it's still there after all these years. But apparently the blood in there, if put in an entrance at a doorway, the demons can't get through, including Billy himself, being the collector here. I thought that was something that was fitting, kind of cheesy, because if you think about it, they don't put it through every single entrance. They just put it in the ones that the demons are right in front of him. For whatever reason, the demons just can't seem to figure out. Okay, well, let's look in the back, But little things like that, which I thought was kind of ridiculous, but it was charming. Because that was the thing about this movie, that it can be looked as a very bad movie, that it's not good by any means, but you're right. It's just a lot of fun, and
it is.
It still holds the charm.
You can pick the movie apart, and as I'm watching it, I'm doing the exact same thing you are. I'm like, really? What about the back door? About the other one? Like,
just go up the window upstairs and come on, guys.
Like, it didn't make any sense, but like you kind of forgive it because the performances are so well done. Everybody plays their part pretty well. You even have, like I said, you have Dick Miller, who plays this crazy character, Uncle Willie. You have Thomas Church playing a really good and bad guy.
Well, I wouldn't call him a bad guy. He's kind of, he's not the bad guy, but he's definitely a dickish character for sure. Like he's a guy that's just looking out for himself, and he pretty much sets that up from the very beginning when you see how things start to unravel before the demons come through, and he's just pushing people in the way of the demons, so that way he has the room and the time to escape.
He's a real slime ball. Let's just say.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
He plays a slime ball very well.
By far the biggest dick, and that's the guy that you get the most satisfaction that he dies, and when he does, you're like, well. And Billy Zane, oh god, I mean, I expect him to say this here, but the way he delivers that line, he's like, I lied. When he told him he was gonna help him, let him escape and walk free. And he was like, yeah, by the way, I lied, Roach, because that was the character's name, I believe, for Hayden Church. But yeah, those the interactions with the characters, for me, I thought they were good for the most part, but only a handful of them really stuck out for me as being memorable. Jaden Pinkett Smith in the beginning for me was not that character. She was just somebody that she has a turn where she becomes the lead towards the end of the movie, but I didn't necessarily see that coming. I literally thought the movie was going to be focused on Will Sadler's character the entire time, but even him as a character, he's not very memorable, to be honest with you. He's a good actor, no doubt, but by far the most memorable character in this entire movie, for me personally, I'm sure for you as well, is Billy Zane.
Yeah,
he literally is the best part of the whole movie, and I don't know if the film would hold up as well if it wasn't for him, because if you put someone else in there kind of doing a different take on it, I don't think the film would have worked as well.
No.
And that's the one saving grace that I can give the film. But thankfully, all the other components that make up the movie serves the film well. But But when you break it down, it's like, yeah, if it wasn't for that secret ingredient, the whole film would have fell apart. And this is one of those key examples of that for me. But
well, let's get into that. Is there anything else that you felt like that was missing, or anything else that kind of like took you out of the film, or you don't like about the film?
Well, as far as what took me out of the movie, some of the special effects were a little dated, obviously.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was part of the charm because I mentioned before I had a lot of the fun with the movie. It was the intro that you see from the Crypt Keeper directing a scene, and the way that the
CGI was so
body,
bad.
and then even when you see it from these wide shots where he's walking, you can clearly tell it's someone in a costume just making the way through, and they don't have these close-up shots of that. And then they have all these other things that kind of are composited together, that are intercut. It wasn't done very well, but then again, this movie wasn't very. I mean, I don't know how much it cost, but you can tell it wasn't that expensive in comparison to other big budget Hollywood movies. So it hasn't been aged very well in my eyes. But but I wish there was more of Billy Zane. I really wish the character of Breaker was a much better and much more interesting character. That was really my biggest gripes with the movie. That the lead guy, was the least interesting character outside of some of the other supporting cast there. But that's just my thoughts here on the special effects. I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Oh, I love the special effects. Well, yeah, anyways, the practical effects. Anyways,
The practical effects
were great. Which is funny because they were like a last minute addition. Those demons at the last minute because they didn't have enough funding for it. So they pretty much, we'll just give you the money so you can make the demon monsters. So those were kind of neat looking. Really, a lot of the practical effects I liked were some of the gory parts. The creature effects for when everybody got transformed and turned into monsters is great, especially for the kid. That was one of my favorite scenes there. Or like you don't really see the kid transform; you just kind of see him possessed as he's reading the comic book, and that transition between the comic book and the live action, what was going on, was actually pretty neat.
Yeah, and that's also tying into the source material from where the show and the film is coming from, which I thought, I mean, if you hadn't told me about that being the source from where this whole thing came from, I would have and it did go over my head as a kid because I had no idea. I just thought that maybe because the cartoon show had those elements in the show, I thought that they were kind of taking a piece of that for the movie, just kind of like a little nod to some kid who's sneaking to watch the movie and probably would pick up on that. That was the only thing that I could connect it with here. But what did you think though of Jada Pinkett Smith being the heroine at the end of the movie? Because when she eventually becomes this new hero, because she ends up becoming the new protector of this artifact, did you feel the impact of this character? Because I personally did not at first. I just kind of just looked at it as just another character that just happened to be in the right place and be at the right time and be under the right circumstance to be put in that position. But upon seeing it again, I thought the transition was somewhat fitting, a little lackluster for me, but I could see that it definitely did make the direction they decided to take it for this character, I thought worked, but it just it wasn't as impactful as I hoped it would be. I don't know if you had anything different to say about that.
Eventually comes into her own at the very end. But yeah, it was kind of like a slow build up, and I agree. It's probably one of the negatives. I felt like a little bit more development at the end would have been great for her character, because the only brief development you kind of see more behind her is when she's getting tempted by the collector, and how she wants to travel and all that. But that's pretty much it. But so I agree with you a little bit more, especially near the ending. You get a little bit more, some more backstory or some more, how she's changed and how she's like kind of coming to her own as to being the new protector, I guess, or guardian, so to speak. Would have been great.
Yeah. And there was supposed to be you mentioned before about it being a sequel or being part of a trilogy, and this was actually the second of this trilogy series that they were going for.
You kind of you do see a sequel technically. It was supposed to be. He talks about at the end of the movie. It's supposed to be like a zombie film in New Orleans, called Fat Tuesday, or it was originally called Dead something, and then they were going to change it to Fat Tuesday, but it didn't go. It didn't work out.
Tales from the Crypt, Fat Tuesday.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt. Actually, because they changed it.
Try marketing that, guys. Yeah. Tales from the Crypt, Fat Tuesday. Sounds like a restaurant. But well, so but the film not doing as well as they hoped it would. Obviously, that never got to come to fruition. But apparently, I think the key itself was supposed to be like the main connective tissue for the
It's
entire
supposed to
trilogy, right?
it actually shows up in Bordello and Blood, actually.
Yeah, which I've never seen, by the way. I know you have seen it before, and I just never cared to watch it personally.
Decent vampire film. It's better than some other ones I've seen. It's not the best, but it's up there. But we could review that at another time. We could definitely do a whole other video about that. Another thing, I want to see a little bit more of the Crypt Keeper. You know, his interaction between a little bit more. I know, like normally in the show, you have like his, you know, the ending, the beginning of the show, the ending of the show. He has, you know, some quick whips every now and then.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see him kind of, because he was directing the movie, to see like some interaction in between the movie here and there, especially when some of the scenes were coming. There was like a lull in a couple of the scenes, having him say something smart or like a joke or something here and there. I would have liked to see him a little bit more in it. But besides that, I mean, the movie it's a pretty decent film. It's gory. It's scary at some points. It has some pretty decent jump scares.
Has some nudity.
Awesome.
It's got some nudity there, of course.
Yeah, it got some nudity in there. And some crazy characters that are, some are memorable, some are not, but it's a decent Tales from the Crypt. That's one thing I really actually did like. It did capture the feel of the Tales from the Crypt, the show.
Yeah, I thought so too.
It does a really good job of that. Just more of the Crypt Keeper would have been great.
I felt like it was fine for me personally, but I guess I can understand your perspective there. But I mean, so overall though, if there's one thing that you could say, or if you were to recommend this movie to somebody, whether it be hardcore Tales from the Crypt fans or hardcore horror fans or just the general public, how would you go about recommending this movie to them?
Check it out for Billy Zane. If you like crazy horror movies, you'd have to watch this just for Billy Zane's character and just the creature effects. You have to see, because it's gnarly and gross and disgusting. And they kill a kid. A kid gets exploded. So who doesn't want to see that? A demon possessed kid. But that's a highlight in the movie. You know, go watch this movie just for that. You want to see a kid get exploded? Watch it.
I would probably just say that if I would recommend the movie, I would be pretty selective, because I know this is not going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have like an acquired taste for this sort of stuff. But you know, this is coming from us who, you know, I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. We reviewed Ernest Scared Stupid. We know how ridiculous that movie that is, but it was still very charming too. So I would more point it towards somebody who's in that same field of fans of that type of genre. I would go for that. But as far as the general public is concerned, the best thing I could say is Billy Zane is awesome, and that's all I would say. He's really good. And they're like, oh, I like Billy Zane. Yeah, he's in Titanic. Well, he's also in this movie too, and he's funny. You know, and like, okay, let me check out. That would be my selling point to recommend the movie for someone who doesn't give a shit about this genre. So hopefully that would convert them. If not, then we tried, Billy. We tried.
And if you haven't seen this movie, what are you waiting for? Go watch it like now. Pop it in. It is. Spooky season isn't over yet. We still have a couple days left till Halloween, so definitely pop it in. This definitely goes in every year around this time when I'm in the mood, to watch something crazy horror. I pop this in, or I pop in, American Werewolf in London. Other random stuff. Like, I'm a huge Halloween nerd, and it's one thing I really, really love is just you gonna get that nostalgia feel sometimes. And I kind of felt like that we were watching it again. Kind of like I want to go through and watch all the entire seasons now of Tales from the Crypt.
I tried doing that a number of years ago. I think I tried to do that 4 or 5 years ago. Up to season 5, I was like, oh god, they really started just like diving down for like the direction of the story. Because that last season I think was like nothing but British stuff, which was fine for the most part, but Daniel Craig's in the show, and so anyway, so I have a great love for the show up to a point in the season breakdown, but this is for me like one of those great aspects of my childhood that I carry with me, and this movie was a part of that childhood for me. So in that regard, if I watch this movie now, having never seen it before, and including the show, I don't know if I would actually connect with it like that. I may enjoy it for what it is, but to have that connection with it, I don't think I would have ever felt that. But Thankfully, I did watch it as a kid. I enjoyed it, and I have a lot of great memories with the show. It's funny because all the greatest memories I have are with horror movies.
Yes,
So,
same.
so it's a weird dichotomy where like the worst shit that happened to people are the things that I enjoy the most. Like this guy's getting his head chopped. Fuck yeah, chop his arms off too. Like shit like that. So it's funny.
And that's why I love the movie, because like the movie kind of gives you that. It gives you
it does.
over the top, stupid violence, stupid horror shit that that I grew up to love.
Imagine that being the promo, like if you like stupid horror shit, then watch this movie. Like that'd be
great,
real hardcore, like truthful promotion there for a movie. And I hope someone went that to the bank and says, you know what, we're going to promote this movie. You like stupid horror shit, then watch this movie. And that would be like the tagline. I hope someone does that one day. Maybe
I'm going to put a note in that. Well, with that being said, folks, those are our views and thoughts of this movie. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. Do you like crazy horror shit? Did you watch this movie? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let us know. Did you love Billy Zane? Because this made me love Billy Zane. Totally leave it in the comments below. Rob, where else can they follow us, man?
Well, you can follow us on our social media accounts. We have a Facebook and Instagram page at New Release Wednesdays and on Twitter at the NRW. You can follow myself on my social media account on Instagram, Rob_Medina0585, on Twitter, RobMedina0585, and on Facebook, simply just Rob the Movie Guy. Remember, Rob the Movie Guy. And my buddy from another nutty over there, where can they follow you, good sir?
You can follow me on my Twitter and my Instagram at David is Disaster, where I post a lot of memes and random stuff. And you can follow me on my personal page on David A. Estacado, where I talk about pop culture, local indie wrestling stuff that got going on, and everything else that I'm into, and all my other obsessions that I'm crazy about. And sometimes I get into it with Rob every now and then. So follow us there. Like you said, if you love what we're doing here, please check out what the rest of the crew is doing here at NRW. We got other reviews going on for Utopia. The Kuya P has his own show going on right now, the Show Pie Show with the Nerds of Color.
Yeah, great show. Check it out, please.
Definitely check it out.
Show some love to those guys.
Definitely check out everything else that's coming down the pipeline. I know Rob and I are still kind of cranking out these horror videos until freaking Halloween night. So definitely check those out. And besides that, Rob, anything else you want to throw down?
Otherwise, I thank you all very much for joining us here today. We appreciate your viewership, and we hope you guys subscribe to the channel, share, and like our videos as well, too. And until next time, everybody, stay safe out there.
Cheers.